Hi, my name's Millie, and 7 months ago I moved from Australia to Ireland, and today I'm gonna talk about it. So a little bit about me first is that I am currently 23 years old, but for the first 17 years of my life I lived in the UK. I was born in the south of England, and then I moved to the northwest when I was 7 or 8, I believe. And for some reason everyone thinks I was born in the northwest. Like I've read articles that I've been included in and people say, oh, Millie is from the northwest. No, I was born in the south and I moved to the northwest when I was a little older. But when I was 17 I left England and I went to China, and when I was 18 I went to Australia, and then I lived in Australia from the age of 18 to 22, and in August of 2024 I moved with my husband here to Ireland. And I never planned to move to Ireland. It was never something that was kind of what I saw for my future. I do have Irish grandparents, but I had never been to Ireland before. Well, I went to Ireland in 2022 for a couple weeks with my husband's family. So yes, Ireland was never kind of on my vision board, so to speak. It was never something I saw for myself. But in the past 7 months, I have learned a lot about myself and Ireland. So I kind of wanted to give some insight as somebody who moved here. This is not the most educational video, I will tell you that. This is me basically rambling about some things that I've learned while I'm here. And it's all positive, to be honest, because I really do like it. But I just wanted to share some of my experience, because I see a lot of people on social media say, wow, Ireland is so beautiful, I want to go, I want to move there. And I do agree it is beautiful, but I did want to share a little bit of my perspective. So let's start with number 1. The first thing I learned after coming here is that I will not be considered British. My entire life, I've always considered myself British. I would say when I was in Australia, oh yeah, I'm British, or I'm from the UK. That was just how it was. And that's always how it had been. I was just a British person. I was from the UK, and that's about it. I never thought any deeper than that. However, since I moved here, it's a little different. I was asking one of my co-workers, and I said to him, when you consider me, do you consider me British or English? And he thought about it for a second, and then he said English. And I was like, interesting. And I was talking to the rest of my co-workers, and I was slowly trying to ask without actually asking. I was slowly peppering it into conversation about if they consider me English or British. And I am considered English by everyone. Obviously, if you know Irish and British history, you'll kind of see why that is. However, it is strange to me to experience. I am always considered English, and I will say I think my co-workers are great. They are really nice. I have Irish co-workers and Irish friends, and no one has ever said anything negative. There's occasionally jokes, but that's about it. Like, I have never felt like an outsider or made to feel bad. But I will always be English here, not British. The second thing I wanted to discuss, I knew this already, my husband did not, and it was a bit of a shock to him, is the Irish sense of humor. I like it. I will say I like it, I think it's fine. It is something I kind of grew up with because my parents both kind of have that sense of humor, my mum especially, but it is quite dry and sarcastic. And my husband, who grew up in China, did not expect that level of sarcasm when we moved. It was a bit of a shock to him, and he came home from work and he was like, my co-workers are so sarcastic. I don't get it. Like, I don't know how to explain to him that that's just what it is, but there's a lot of sarcasm, a lot of jokes, and you do kind of learn, like, no one's actually mean to you, no one hates you, you're not, no one's trying to bully you out the workplace. It is just the way people are here, and you do get used to it. Another thing I wish I knew before I moved here was that yes, The cost of living is high, but surprisingly, groceries fairly affordable. We cook for ourselves 4 days a week, because if you didn't know, I live with my husband's parents. We eat by ourselves 4 days a week, and then the other 3 days a week we eat with my husband's family, and I don't cook. I don't want to. But on those 4 days we spend on average €40 for those 4 days. So that is breakfast, lunch, dinner for 2 people. So we can feed ourselves for €5 a day per person. And I think in Australia we were spending a lot more than that. Don't get me wrong, sometimes it is a little more than that. I think I posted a video a while back talking about the cost of groceries, and somehow it ended like absolutely insane, but that was because everything ran out at the same time. It can't be avoided sometimes, you know. I think it was like shampoo, conditioner, toothpaste, body wash, and mouthwash all were empty at the same time. And sometimes that's just how life is. You can't fight it. You have to deal with it. But yes, I have never had any complaints about the cost of groceries here. Apart from fish. I feel like fish is kind of pricey a lot of the time, but we do our shopping at Tesco. Pretty cheap, pretty affordable, no complaints. Another thing is the work-life balance. It is pretty good, gonna be honest. I work part-time, so I work anywhere from, I'd say 15 to 30 hours a week. It can be more, can be less, but I'd say over the last 2.5 months, that's pretty much been my average. And my husband works a normal work week, 40 hours a week. We obviously get tired after work, and you know, you might not want to do everything, but you do get free time to be able to go off, and booking holidays is never an issue. I've seen a lot of Americans especially complain that if they want to get time off, they have to ask for it and it might be declined. I just booked 2 weeks off. Yes, I booked 2 weeks off to go to China in November, and I'm obviously very excited, but there was never any issue from my work for those 2 weeks. They were just like, yep, let us know what day, and that's great. I also have a couple of other trips that I've either taken already or planned for weekends and stuff. So I went to Manchester to see my parents, and I'm going on holiday for a weekend away with my husband in May, and I just tell my work, I'm like, hey, don't schedule me these days, I won't be there. And they're like, yep, that's great, we'll see you when you come back. I actually really like it. Obviously, if I was working full-time, it might be a bit different, but my husband has also been able to book his time off and there's never been any issues. This is something my friend told me to do, and it was get the right public transport card. I was using the normal Leap card, and I will say the public transport here is pretty cheap, pretty good. I mean, buses kind of come when they want to, but I do like the train, and you usually can get where you're going. But there are other options that are half the price. So there's obviously the full price card, and then there's the one I'm using, which is the under 25. And I can use that until September 2027, I believe. So I have long enough to use it. It's great. I will say though, public transport, you might have to rely on it because getting a driver's license here takes forever. I cannot drive. I know how to drive in theory, and I have driven a car, but legally I'm not allowed on the roads. I have my learner's permit. I will say I passed my learner's permit theory test, and then now I'm in the process of saving up to get my 12 required hours of lessons. Fair enough, you should know how to drive, and then you have to book in for the actual test. The actual test can take months to get that actual driving test, and then they fail people very easily. Very easy to fail, they're very quick to fail people, and if you fail, you need to rebook again. If you don't rebook quick enough, you might not get that repeat test. So you might have to rely on public transport a little more than you want to, but it usually is fine. I use public transport to get to work, most of the time. And I've never been late. I've never not got to work. So I will say it has been fine for me. They did change the bus routes recently and it has caused issues for some people. But I am standing by Irish Rail. The Irish Rail system has not failed me yet. I love Irish Rail. This is my only actual complaint, I think, in this whole video, and it is things are kind of slow. When I went to get a bank account, I had to bring in a couple of things, forms, whatever, and they were like, oh, you need proof of address. So I added myself to the bills for this house, so I had proof of address, and they were like, not good enough. I was like, great, wonderful. And then I had to set it up on the app instead. Not sure why that worked, apparently it does. And then I had to get my PPSN. So that's the PPS number, and that just is what you need for jobs and social services and stuff like that. I am in a lucky position where, as a British passport holder, you can kind of travel in and out of Ireland very freely without worrying about visas or anything. Great. I was able to get that, but I did also need more proof of address, which I was able to get from the bank, but the bank didn't accept it. It's really confusing. Lots of stuff takes a lot of time. I think the first couple of months were just me trying to set up services and bank accounts and address and all these documents and stuff, being able to file taxes, whatever. Now I am, I'm working, I have a bank account, I am a functioning member of the Irish Society. Whether they like it or not, unfortunately, I am here to stay. I really like it here. I'm here for good at the moment. But it is hard to kind of get set up. So if you are considering moving here, just be aware that you need a lot of paper, a lot of documents. We've got a folder in our bedroom about this thick of everything we've had to use so far. It's tough. I mean, it's worth it. It is. But yeah, it's kind of tough. And finally, one thing that, if I remember correctly, also happens in the UK. And then I left for so long, I forgot it happens. And happens in a couple of other countries in Europe as well. My German friend mentioned it happens over there. But Sunday hours, things will not be open when you want them to be. Sunday, things either open later or they don't open at all. And I completely forgot about it for the first kind of month since we moved here, and I was like, oh my gosh, why is nothing open? Where is everyone? But you do get used to it and you can kind of plan around it, so it's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but it is kind of annoying when you do forget about it and you're like, oh, I got a Sunday off, let's go out. No, you will not be going out. I only get Sundays off at the moment, so I work Saturdays, not Sundays. And every time I'm like, oh, I'll plan something. Will I? Will I get to do anything? Yes, but just later in the day. I do have plans this weekend and the weekend after, and I've just had to kind of go a little later in the day. But like I said, not the end of the world, just kind of know what happens. Anyway, this was not a very educational video. It was mostly just me rambling about things I kind of like and keep forgetting about since I moved here. But if you did have any extra questions about, moving to Ireland, adjusting to living in a different country, again, because this is my third country I've lived in long term at this point. So if you want any questions answered about adjusting or moving or anything in general, do leave them in the comments and I will get back to you. But for now, this is the end of the video and I will see you next week with a brand new one. Bye bye for now.